The flat plains are not a destination where most climbing enthusiasts would find elevated ground. Most would travel elsewhere to get the rush of climbing higher heights. Ice climber Jim Grijalva built an artificial structure that recreates the real-life experience of ice climbing. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first off, I have to ask you, where did this passion for extreme outdoor sports begin?
A long time ago. As a kid, started hunting and fishing, and that kind of morphed into canoeing and whitewater kayaking and mountain biking and eventually climbing and ice climbing.
So where are some famous places that you have climbed?
Oh, I've climbed in a number of places around the western United States and Canada. Also in Alaska. I spent about 11 years in Alaska, so I've been all over the western United States.
Mm-hmm. And I can almost imagine just like the rush of adrenaline that goes through you, like when you're going through the process of climbing a mountain. What's the actual feeling when you reach the top of the summit?
Well, you know, one of the things on the way to the summit is that living in the moment. That you know, in a fast-paced life, we're always thinking about yesterday and today and tomorrow. And the focus that you need in an extreme sport is you're on the edge of safety or not safe, and so you got to focus on that clear goal. And when you get to the top, then that adrenaline rush kind of floods through you. You feel successful, you feel good, and hopefully turn around and do it again.
So how do you engage others to climb in the prairie?
Well, that's part of the live in the moment, right? The idea that, well, we don't have a lot of gravity sports here like whitewater kayaking or mountain biking or climbing. So if we can create the opportunity without having to drive 10, 12, 16 hours, it's a good opportunity. And so the idea for the ice wall was really to give us something close to town that was fun and challenging and different.
So really, how did you get the idea? Who came to you and said, you know what, I really just want to make 40 feet of ice?
It really was an offhand comment that a rock climber friend of mine made, that some people sometimes will put a hose up into a cottonwood tree and let the water run down the bark, and then that forms into ice, and then you can climb that. And my in-laws live in Larimore. They have some rural property with cottonwood trees. And so one day I thought, well, let's try it. And we put a hose up and made essentially what looked like a waterfall coming out of the branches of the tree. And we climbed it several times that year. That was several years ago. And that kind of morphed into the wall that I have now, which is a little bit more elaborate, a little bit taller. But same idea. You take a hose, you put it up to the top. If you get the flow right, the cold combines with the water, and suddenly you've got a huge chunk of ice.
So how long did it take to build this?
This year it took about six days. So we let the water flow for nearly a week. And we get a wall that's about 40 feet high, and it's about 10 or 11 feet wide. And thickness-wise, at the base, it's much thicker than at the top, but probably anywhere from 6 to 8 feet thick at the bottom to 2 feet thick at the top.
All right, well, if you see in our pictures, you know, we don't see a cottonwood tree, we see some other structure. Why do you make the change?
Well, we found out with the cottonwood tree that the wind moves the tree, and then when the tree moves, it breaks the ice, and then it creates the question of whether the ice is going to stay in place. So the idea with the telephone poles was we created a structure that wasn't as likely to move in the wind, and it also gave us a little bit higher wall to work with, a little bit wider wall to work with, so there's more opportunities to climb.
Mm-hmm. Well, besides being an avid sports enthusiast, you are in the law profession.
That's true.
Has anybody ever came to you and talked about, you know, the law, you know, lawsuits and everything that could potentially happen? Let's say if somebody had an accident on that ice wall?
We would kick around the ideas. It's hard when you're trained as a lawyer not to think about that. We try to minimize that, and of course safety is important when you rock climb, when you ice climb, when you do any of these more extreme sports. And so we try to be smart about it, and that's one of the things we teach the kids to do. You double check yourself, you make sure your safety system's in place, and most of the time, of course, like a lot of things, nobody gets hurt. It's all good fun.
Mm-hmm. How does the role of temperature play a role in the ice wall and actually to climb its safety?
The ice is different. It's sort of like we all know that snow is different. Some snow is soft and fluffy, some snow is hard and wet. Ice is kind of similar. The colder it is, the harder and more brittle the ice is. The warmer the ice is, the softer it is. And so the last time we were out there, it was about 5 degrees above zero. And when you put the tools into the ice by hitting it kind of like a little hatchet technique, sometimes it explodes in your face. It shatters and falls down, and you've got to keep struggling to get your tool in. The warmer the ice gets, the easier it is to sink that in. But then, of course, you don't want to get too warm, because then theoretically the ice might be melting and eventually falling to the ground.
All right. Well, what have you learned from this entire process?
Oh, you can make fun anywhere you want to, if you want to. As I said, I moved here from the Western United States, and there's not the same kind of opportunities close by, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun. And so we took up the challenge to create something interesting that no one else had done, and it's proven to be great. We've had 7 or 8, 9 kids out there in the last couple of weeks, and a number of adults try it, and it's really fun to see somebody try something they haven't done before, especially something that's mentally challenging as well as physically demanding. And it's been a lot of fun. I think it's worth the effort.
And one more question for you. So really, how do you balance both your interest in the law and extreme outdoor sports?
Well, part of the way I came to the law, and I practice as an environmental lawyer, and I teach environmental law and related subjects, and that was really because I love to be outside. Rivers and mountains and forests are places I tend to try to spend my time, and so in some ways I married those two concepts by being an environmental lawyer. And like most people, I work indoors most of the time, and so my pleasure is to get outside. And if it's cold, then you put on more clothes, and you just go with the right gear, and it's not a hard thing to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. We appreciate having it, and I'll make sure to have my fear of heights probably retained so I can probably go up there myself. But thank you.
Thank you, Ann.